Single dad saw a woman cancel her son's birthday cake. What he did brought her to tears. A woman stood at the bakery counter with trembling hands, staring at a pink birthday cake box she could no longer afford. Behind her, a single father carrying a cup of coffee watched as she quietly asked the cashier to cancel her little boy's birthday cake. She tried to smile through the humiliation, but the tears gathering in her eyes told a different story. In that heartbreaking moment, one stranger made a decision that would forever change both of their lives. Before we begin this emotional story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of helping strangers, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Beyond Inspire. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Daniel Harper had learned long ago that life rarely gave second chances. 3 years earlier, cancer had taken his wife, Emily, leaving him to raise their 8-year-old daughter, Lily, alone. Every morning began before sunrise as he packed lunches, braided Lily's hair after watching countless online tutorials, and worked long hours as a maintenance technician to keep a small apartment over their heads. Money was always tight, but Daniel refused to let Lily feel poor. He believed children deserved memories stronger than hardships, even if those memories came from simple picnics, homemade pancakes, or bedtime stories instead of expensive vacations. That Saturday afternoon, Daniel had stopped by a neighborhood bakery to buy Lily her favorite cinnamon rolls after her school recital. It wasn't a special occasion, but he knew she loved little surprises. As he waited in line, he noticed a woman standing ahead of him. She looked exhausted, wearing a beige blazer that had clearly seen better days, with dark circles under eyes that spoke of sleepless nights. Resting on the counter was a beautiful blue birthday cake decorated with tiny stars and the words, "Happy 7th birthday, Noah." The cashier gently explained the remaining balance. The woman searched every pocket of her purse before counting a handful of worn bills and loose coins. Her face slowly lost its color as she realized she was still far short of the total. She whispered something Daniel couldn't fully hear, then asked if the order could be canceled. The bakery employee apologized kindly, explaining that custom cakes couldn't normally be refunded because they had already been made. For several painful seconds, the woman stood completely still. She finally lowered her head and quietly admitted she had lost her job earlier that week. Rent was overdue, groceries were nearly gone, and every dollar mattered. She said her son would understand, though her voice made it painfully clear that she was trying to convince herself more than anyone else. Daniel looked toward the cake. It wasn't just flour, sugar, and frosting anymore. It represented a little boy waiting at home, believing his birthday would still be magical, despite everything his mother was silently carrying. Without thinking twice, Daniel stepped forward and asked the cashier to add the birthday cake to his bill. The woman immediately protested, embarrassed beyond words. Daniel simply smiled with the calm kindness of someone who understood invisible pain. He told her that years ago, strangers had helped him after his wife passed away, and he had promised himself he would repay that kindness whenever he could. Today, it was simply her turn. The woman finally broke down. Tears rolled freely down her cheeks as she covered her face, overwhelmed not by the gift itself, but by the realization that someone still cared enough to notice her suffering. Daniel handed her the cake box gently and wished her son a wonderful birthday. As Daniel left with Lily's cinnamon rolls, he believed that would be the end of the story. He was wrong. Later that evening, while Lily happily ate her warm pastry at home, Daniel couldn't stop thinking about the little boy named Noah. He imagined the surprise on his face when his mother walked through the door carrying the birthday cake he thought had disappeared. Somewhere across town, candles would still be lit, wishes would still be made, and laughter would still fill a small apartment despite financial struggles. Meanwhile, Noah's birthday became something far greater than anyone expected. When his mother, Sarah, carried the cake inside. Noah hugged her tightly before even looking at the decorations. He simply whispered that he knew she was trying her best, and that having her was enough. Sarah cried even harder. After Noah fell asleep that night, Sarah opened her laptop and wrote about what had happened. She never mentioned Daniel's full name because she didn't know it. She simply described a kind single father who refused to let a child lose his birthday because life had become too difficult. Her story spread rapidly across social media. Thousands of people shared it. Parents related to the impossible choices between paying bills and creating happy memories. Others admitted they had once depended on strangers during their darkest seasons. The story reminded people that kindness often arrives without warning and without expecting anything in return. 3 days later, Daniel arrived at work to discover several coworkers smiling at him strangely. One handed him a phone displaying Sarah's viral post. Alongside it was a bakery security photo showing Daniel quietly paying for the birthday cake. Daniel felt embarrassed. He hadn't wanted recognition. He believed kindness lost something precious when it was performed for applause. Yet the story continued spreading. A local community organization tracked Daniel down and surprised him with grocery gift cards for his family. Someone anonymously paid 3 months of Lily's school activity fees. A mechanic repaired Daniel's aging car free of charge after learning how often it broke down. Every gift came with nearly identical messages. You reminded us that goodness still exists. Daniel realized something extraordinary. Kindness rarely ends with one person. It moves from heart to heart like light passing through darkness. Weeks later, Sarah finally found Daniel through the bakery owner. She invited him and Lily to a small community picnic organized by neighbors inspired by the story. Daniel almost declined, uncomfortable with attention, but Lily insisted they should go. The park overflowed with families, volunteers, music, and children laughing together. Noah immediately recognized Daniel from the bakery photograph and ran over to hug him. That simple hug carried more gratitude than words ever could. During the picnic, Sarah shared more of her story. She had spent years working for a company that suddenly downsized, leaving dozens unemployed without warning. She had applied for over 40 jobs while hiding her fears from Noah. Canceling the birthday cake had felt like admitting defeat as both a mother and provider. Daniel quietly reminded her that difficult seasons never define good parents. Love is measured by sacrifice, not by expensive presents. Those words stayed with Sarah. A month later, she found stable employment with a nonprofit organization helping struggling families find housing and financial support. Inspired by what Daniel had done, she started a small birthday fund within the organization so children facing hardship would never have to celebrate without a cake again. The project grew beyond anyone's expectations. Local bakeries volunteered desserts, florists donated decorations, photographers offered free family portraits. Community members sponsored birthday parties for children whose parents simply needed hope. Every celebration traced back to one ordinary afternoon inside a neighborhood bakery where a stranger chose compassion over convenience. Daniel never considered himself extraordinary. He still fixed broken pipes, attended Lily's school events, worried about bills, and missed his late wife every single day. Life remained imperfect, but Lily noticed something beautiful. Whenever they passed someone needing help, her father no longer hesitated, and neither did she. One rainy afternoon, Lily quietly used her own saved allowance to buy lunch for another little girl at school, whose parents were struggling financially. When Daniel learned about it, he smiled through proud tears. Kindness had become their family's greatest inheritance. Years later, Noah would barely remember the details of that birthday. He wouldn't remember the exact flavor of the cake or how many candles stood on top. But he would always remember the lesson his mother taught him afterward. That sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they simply stand quietly behind you in a bakery line, carrying a cup of coffee, choosing to care when nobody else notices. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, subscribe to Beyond Inspire. Your support helps bring more true-to-life stories of hope, compassion, and humanity to people who need them most. Special request: before this story ends, please leave a comment telling us the kindest thing a stranger has ever done for you, or one act of kindness you hope to do for someone else. The greatest miracles rarely begin with wealth or power. They begin with one ordinary person seeing another's silent pain and deciding not to walk away. Because sometimes a single birthday cake can become the first chapter of hundreds of happier endings, proving that even in the hardest moments, kindness has the power to heal hearts, restore hope, and remind us that none of us are truly alone.